thank Mr. Osama for his presentation. And like I said to him, and I'd like to stress that when we say to somebody you're doing this wrong, it doesn't mean you have to come back and defend yourself, because basically the expectation is you will do it wrong, and our job is to show you a better way to do it. That's why
to learn.
Yeah, that's why you're paying all this money to learn. Otherwise, what's the point? So you will come, all of you, and each one of you will give a presentation, 45 minutes to an hour, and you will receive a lot of critical comments and critique. So you need to take that as an opportunity to improve rather than an attack. I know it's some cultures, some people just don't like to be critiqued.
No offense.
Yeah, but there's nothing offending about somebody saying to you, well, actually what you did is not, I did not get anything from his first half an hour that is actually useful. So, and he needs to go back, and then next time, the first half an hour, he will make it useful. And that then brings me to what I want to talk about regarding the symposium. Thank you, Dr. Samia, for coming.
Sorry.
That's okay. Okay. I think there is one person who is missing. I don't know who is missing, but for those who are actually giving presentation next week, although after 10 days, there is something I want to say. I said it before, and sometimes I just felt people did not really understand me, or they did not really listen. The presentation duration is going to be, that's why I'm recording this, so we can keep it, so people will not say we did not know about this. The presentation is 20 minutes. That's the period allocated to you. That the maximum period allocated to you is 20 minutes, which means you really need to plan for 15 minutes, right? Okay, so what I want to say that including the introductory slides and your name and everything, please do not have more than 10 slides, including everything. 10 slides. Anything more than 10 slides, we will fail this presentation, because you know you have the best presentation, right? One of the criteria for assessing the presentation is that you should have only 10 slides. If you have 11 slides, then 11 slides, then you should know that your presentation is not going to be the best presentation, regardless what you do, right? Why? Because that will allow you to speak for 15 minutes. That's number one. Number two, the symposium presentation is not about your PhD overall. It's about taking a slide of your PhD and talking about it from the beginning to the end, right? Every presentation should have a beginning, and every presentation should have an end. And when you start, what do I mean by a beginning? Is an intention to do something. You are intending to do something, and then you end. The end will be by saying, I have done X. So the introduction, I am going to do X. By the end you say, I have done X. It is not about, my aim is to identify factors for knowledge exchange, or something to do with what he said. Huh?
The wire don't touch it. The cable, don't touch it, because
I don't touch it?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm just going to put my hands like this all the time. I'm going to handcuff myself. So you say, I want to identify the factors for knowledge exchange between higher education, members of higher education. So you end your presentation by saying, my research methodology is going to be a survey, and I'm going to distribute this questionnaire to all universities in Bahrain. Thank you very much for listening to me. That is not a conclusion. That is a plan of doing something, right? And like we said before, a PhD is a journey, and this journey is made of different it's a one big beginning and one big conclusion. But each PhD has sub-journeys, right? It has sub-beginnings and sub-conclusions. And that's what we call the objectives. Every time you reach the objective, then that is an achievement, that is an end, that is a paper, that's a presentation, that's a symposium paper. So when you finish your literature review, you come to a conclusion about the literature and what the state of the art and what people are talking about. That is a paper, right? That is something you can stand up and talk about. Today I'm going to talk to you about my literature review, which I conducted to try to identify the main components of research in this area. And this is how I conducted my literature review. This is how I profiled my literature review. This is how I analyzed my literature review. And therefore, these are a number of subtopics I have identified in this literature review. That's conclusion, paper, right? Do not say, I am going to build a framework. If you build it, you tell us that you built it, and that's it. But you don't say, I am actually going to build a framework, and by the time you reach the conclusion, we realize that you haven't even finished your literature review, right? That's the difference between a paper, right? This is the symposium paper, and journal papers and conference papers are not progress reports of your PhD, right? You could say, I have just finished developing my framework, right? Now, what you will do is you will start your paper by conducting a review about how people develop frameworks in this field. What are the different hypotheses that have been approved in the literature? You list them, and then based on that, you put them together. And then you finish by developing your framework. The conclusion is, this is how it should look. The quest for identifying factors of knowledge exchange amongst higher education staff, this is how it should look. That's a paper. And then the big papers will start to come when you start collecting data and you start analyzing the data and then coming up with some answers. So what I want to say that in the symposium, and that's why 15 minutes is actually enough. It's more than enough. It's not enough if you wanted to speak about the whole of the PhD, and I have seen before, some people have 35 slides, and you only have 20 minutes, right? And do you remember the sound of the mobile when it reached 20 minutes? Do you remember? Right? So I'm trying to find a very, very, very ugly sound to put. 20 minutes means 20 minutes, right? Because remember, and this is also for the people who are not here, if you are taking more than 20 minutes, you are stealing time from your colleagues who are going to speak after you. So if you are happy to do that, we are not. Okay? So 20 minutes, aim for the 20 minutes. And why do you have 20 minutes? Because that's part of the training. When you go for your examination, right, the viva, let me talk about I always like to talk about the vivas. And you will lose your memory, like I said to you before. You will not remember anything that you remember. You will only remember the things that you know, right? You will never remember anything you remember. You remember the thing that you know. And I want you to really listen to me here carefully. So when you go to the viva, you will be worried, right? Unfortunately, I'll have to tell you a sad story after I finish this, and he will stop recording, because the people who are not here, not now, but the people who will not have the pleasure of listening to it, or the pain, depending. So when you go to the viva, like I said, you will be worried, you will be shaking, you will be shivering. Everybody, right? Even the top people you see here who went to their viva, they were shivering. Even I was shivering. Even Anjum was shaking.
To the viva, I drank so much water. 5 minutes later, I had to go to the bathroom, but I couldn't say I have to go to the bathroom.
Yes. Because he forgot how to say it as well. So I want to go to the bathroom. So the issue is you will then sit down. They will say hello, hello. My name is so and so. Lastly, sit down. Okay. When you sit down, and you start, they'll ask you the magical question that I said to you before, which is, tell us about your PhD for 10 minutes. In the first half an hour of 5 minutes of that 10 minutes, you will still be shivering. In the second 5 minutes of that 10 minutes, you will be very calm. You will just be very calm. It's like a storm has passed. After the storm, you know, after the sun, the rain and the storm, everything will be calm. You just be calm. But you will not be yourself. It will be somebody else sitting there, right? Yourself that we know, the things that you try to do in your life, everything will go. And then you'll be somebody, it's the somebody who was sitting in front of the computer all those nights and doing the job. So, you have to talk about your research. And if you're not able to talk, that's it, you've done. The symposium and the 3-minute presentations are a part of that. If you're not able to talk about single piece of research from the beginning to the end in 15 minutes, you'll never be able to do it in half an hour, in 2 hours, or ever. And that's part of the trainings, right? So when we say speak for 15 minutes, 10 slides, something that makes sense, i.e. something that has a beginning and has an end. I noticed that Salman, since I started talking about the Bible, he took out his things and started counting started counting it. Don't worry, you need a longer one. So, so that is what I want to speak about to you. Professionalism and adherence to regulations, but also in the same time allowing and teaching yourself to speak about something very important in a very short period of time. The final thing I would like to say, if you feel there is any challenge in your life that is related to the PhD only, please do not hesitate to come and speak to me about, and we will solve. There's no problem that is related to the PhD that we cannot solve, right? I don't do anything outside the PhD, but anything related to the PhD, please come to me and talk to me, and we will solve it. And thank you very much.